G'day guys, how you going? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some cool new fans from DeepCool. These are the DeepCool MF120GT. In this video I'm actually going to try and break it down into sort of 3 chapters. The first chapter is unboxing, going through what you get included in the pack of fans. Second part is the configuration and how to install it, get the RGB working, and then the third part is the thermals and performance. Now, if you found this video helpful, then hit the like button. If you have any comments or questions about this particular product or anything else in the setup, then you can ask me in the comment section down below. And if you love this content and you don't want to miss out on future content that's like this, then maybe consider subscribing. If you don't want to do any of that, the other alternative is you can come over and check me out on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I'm usually playing games and dying and having a big old laugh at myself. So now that's all said and done, let's begin. Okay, so let's have a look at these MF120GT fans from DeepCool. These come in a 3-pack, I got 2 of them, and these are a ARGB fan, and they go for around about $79 here in Australia. On the back of the box you can see all of the different specs, but let's get them out of the box so we can see what comes included, and we'll go through some of the specifications. So when you actually open up the box to get to your fans, you'll see that there's actually, first of all, another little box which contains a bunch of different screws and adapters and fan hubs and controllers and a bunch of different things. These fans can be mounted to any radiator, or you can just simply mount them to your case, but they are a pressure optimized fan, so I'd recommend putting them on a radiator as you'll get really good performance from these fans. Inside of another little box you have a little controller or a hub here, so you can connect multiple fans to one hub and then connect that to one header on your motherboard. And then you've also got the manual, which is just going to show you the package contents, and it's also going to show you, I guess, an example of which way you would want to connect them to either have the fans and the RGB controlled by your motherboard or by the, RGB controller that comes included. So let's have a look at the fans, which is, what you all came here for. These fans, on first impression, when I got them out of the box, they were actually a really interesting and cool design that I hadn't really seen before. They've got this dual layer fan blade, so that will give you really good static pressure against your radiator, plus low noise and high airflow, which is really good. They will spin up to 1800 revs per minute, or as low as 500. They push around about 60 CFM, and they go up to about 35 decibels. The bearing they use is a hydro bearing, and then the RGB is purely just, lined across those straight sort of the X pattern. There's actually no RGBs around the outside of the frame or anything like that. It's just on that X, which when the actual RGB is going, and you'll see, well, you kind of already saw it in the intro, the actual RGB glows really nicely on those fan blades that are plastic and clear and reflective, and everything looks like, in terms of the gradients, really good. So this is the 3-pin 5-volt cable that you'll use to go ahead and connect these fans to the header on your motherboard if you want to use something like Asus Aura Sync to sync up your RGB fans with something else that you have in your case, like your RAM or your graphic card. And then this is the 3-pin 5-volt hub that you get to, daisy chain or connect multiple fans to one hub to make your life and cable management hopefully a little bit easier. So you can connect up to 5 fans with one of these hubs. So this comes in a 3-pack. So if you get 2 packs like I did, you get 2 of these hubs, and you can actually connect one hub to the other, so that way you can synchronize all of your lights and anything else that you might have connected to your motherboard to make sure, the lighting and the patterns are all in sync, which is really nice. There's also some double-sided tape on the back of it, so you can mount that to the back of your case in any position that you like. And if you have to remove it, it's actually really not too difficult, and it's not going to leave any mess or residue behind at all. So obviously we get some radiator screws as well, so you get 12 of those and 12K screws. So this will mount onto any radiator that you have. If it's not a DeepCool radiator, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to actually just mount them to your case, you can definitely do that as well. So I've actually got 3 mounted to a radiator in my configuration, and then I've got the other 3 mounted to the case just for airflow. These here are the little low noise adapters that you can actually use to reduce the fans all the way down to 300 RPM, or you can max them out at 1500 RPM. So if you want to have just even more control over your noise and your fan speed, you can use those. And then included as well, they give you a fan hub. So that allows you to connect up to 4 fans on one fan hub, and then just plug that straight into your header on your motherboard, which obviously means that you're taking up less space. And then this here is the RGB controller, so you can just cycle through the colors and the patterns using buttons if you don't have a header on your motherboard to use. Okay, so this is my PC and the current configuration that I have with these particular fans. The case, by the way, this is the DeepCool MA3 310P, which is a mid-tower case, and then the all-in-one liquid cooler is the Castle 360EX, and this is the white edition. Now, obviously the fans have been changed out, so we've just got a standard DeepCool 120mm fan that come with one of the Castle all-in-one kits, but then obviously we've got here the two MF120GTs, and you can't see the X because that's on the other side, but the lighting will still come through. But these fans are configured to pull cool air in from the front and through the radiator to cool the CPU, and then that air flows onto the graphic card and into the case, and then we've got 4 fans here in the chassis to exhaust that hot air. So we've got 3 of the MF120GTs here, obviously with the X facing down, with the blades there pushing the hot air out through the top of the case, and then we've got one here in the rear pushing any hot air through the rear of the case. So essentially we're sucking cool air in, and then we're pushing out the hot air through the top and the back of the case. Plenty of ventilation for the graphic card to breathe, plenty of room inside of this case for, I guess, pushing all of that air through. But this is a fully loaded MA3 with 7 fans, and the performance is really good. Now, in terms of cable connection and configuration, we're going to switch around to the back now, and I'll show you how that all works. For the 3 fans at the front of the case, they are actually routed, I guess, through the back here and then into the 4, I guess, fan hub that comes included. And then we have the output of that going straight down and into the, I guess, CPU header of the motherboard. I'm pointing down here, but it's actually up the top. And then the other fans that are actually included are actually going into the fan hub that comes included on this case. So they're going into here, and then we have a single output going out, down, and actually into the chassis fan header down the bottom here. For the RGB, it's actually all going through this one hub here. There is an extension cable on it as well. And then we've got that connector going into the 3-pin 5-volt header on the motherboard. So that way we can control the RGB of all the fans together with one single connection to the motherboard. Excuse the cable management job, this was very much a last minute thing. Had to sort of slightly tidy it up so you could get the idea, but this is just how I have mine connected for the fans and for the RGB. Now, if you don't have a 3-pin 5-volt header or a 4-pin 12-volt on your motherboard to control the RGB with the software, you do actually have this included controller that comes with the fans in the actual box. And so what you can do is you can connect the SATA power connector of the controller into the SATA power connection of your power supply. So that just goes in like that. And then the 3-pin 5-volt goes into, I guess, the 3-pin 5-volt output of the hub. So that just plugs in like that. And then using this controller here, you can press plus or minus to go through the different speeds, and then the little one in the middle here is to go through the different modes. So if you can't control it through the motherboard, you can just use the, I guess, controller that comes in the box to manually control it. You just got to be creative about how to mount this and where you want to put it on the outside of your case. So now I'm going to quickly just go through and show you the different color modes and effects that you can get using the built-in controller. So I'm going to cycle through the colors that you get, which are all, you know, pretty standard colors for any RGB device. And then as you're going through and you're cycling through the different modes, you're going to slowly hit the different effects. So you've got your red, you know, orange, yellow, green, blue, all the same sort of effects, and all the fans you can see are sort of synchronized together. The fan and obviously, sorry, the RAM and the graphics card are not, but the fans are, which is the main part. You can see there's some other cool effects here where it kind of blends the colors together, which is quite nice. So you've got your, you know, blue and pink there. If you want to go full rainbow, There is one more. I think if we just go, there we go. I think they call that unicorn. I think it's unicorn spew. I think that's the mode that everyone calls that. And if you press the little middle dot, that will actually go ahead and speed it up. So if you want to go, full party, you can do that. But you can also slow it right down so it's a little bit more calm and relaxing. If you just want a static color though, you just basically go through and you just cycle until you find the color that you like. So they're the different color modes. Now I'll switch to the software on the computer and you'll see the different modes that you can get there and how that syncs up with the graphic card and the RAM. Okay, so what's currently happening is now we've got the fans synchronized with Aura Sync, as you can see on the screen, and we've got it synced with the Strix 2070 Super, the RAM, and obviously you've got the addressable header, which is controlling all of the fans. So inside of Aura Sync, it's pretty simple to set up. You just got to go to the Asus website and download the latest version. This is the actual Armoury Crate software, which includes AuraSync, which is the one that I would recommend if you're using Asus. And then in the Aura effects area, we can see we've got some control here. So we've got currently set up with rainbow, and you've got some different patterns you can go through and pick. But then if you want to, you can make it strobe, you can change the speed, you can have a static color if you just want to go ahead and leave it as one color, but everything will be synchronized together, which is the main, I guess, point of AuraSync. There's some other effects in here, so Starry Night, for example, you can have everything twinkling, which is pretty cool. But one that I like to do is actually the music. So let me just quickly load up some music, some stream beats, and you'll see how that plays in to this situation as well. So as you can see, we've got some music playing and the lights are reacting to the different sounds and the different volumes of the song, which I think is a pretty cool effect. And if you want to check out this effect, I actually do demonstrate this on my streams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So maybe come over there and you can check this out as well. So you've got two modes. One is with the motherboard and with the software, and the other is with the built-in controller. So there we have it, all of the RGB all working together in harmony. Tell me, do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comment section. And if you have any questions, or maybe you're having a bit of, I guess, trouble getting yours working, let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you. If it's related to the DeepCool products, there are some really good tutorials that I've actually featured on that will help you out on the DeepCool YouTube page. So please go over and check those out. But I guess really, as long as you've got the controller or the motherboard connections wired up correctly, you shouldn't have any issues. All right, so what you can currently see on the screen is a bunch of different tools and utilities to help us, I guess, measure the temperatures of different components, measure the fan speeds. But what we're going to be doing is putting a synthetic load onto the graphics card using a program called Firmark, and a synthetic load onto the CPU using a program called Prime 95. So the CPU and graphic card that I'm currently using is a Ryzen 5 2600. There's no overclock on that at all. But the graphic card is a 2070 Super from Asus. It's the Asus Strix version. And there is a overclock on that with roughly about 105 megahertz offset, as you can see with the MSI Afterburner there. And then the power and temp limits are just pretty much raised all the way up, just to sort of give the graphic card as much power as possible. So with the fans, currently with the Asus AI suite, we've got all of the fans spinning, I believe, at roughly, I think it's 40%. I'll just double confirm. Yep, double check. 40%, which means they're spinning all at around about 700 RPM. The pump is running at its maximum speed. The PCH fan on the motherboard is running at 1500, which is the one for the chipset. And then the graphic card fan is spinning at around about 960. So this is all pretty standard and how I would usually run my PC day-to-day for gaming. But we're going to see once we put that load onto it how well the fans in this configuration, I guess, handle all of that heat. So the CPU cooler is the Castle 360 AIO with two of the MF120GT fans plus a third 120mm fan from DeepCool on that radiator. And then we've got the other four fans all as exhausts. So three along the top and then one at the back. So there's a total of 7 120mm fans, all spinning at 40% or roughly 700 RPM. So let's start the test for the CPU. So we'll start the torture test. We'll do small FFTs. So that's running, and then we'll start the GPU stress test, which is Thermark running at 1920 by 1080. And you can see here we've got the MSI Afterburner software checking the graphic card, which is reporting back at 2055 megahertz, and then the CPU is anywhere between 3.6 and 3.7 gigahertz on all cores, and you can see that in Task Manager, the CPU and graphic card are now under a full load. So the current temperatures for the CPU diode, looking at around about 4 or 53 for the diode, and then 54 for the GPU. And I guess over time, these fan speeds and these temperatures, the fan speed shouldn't change. I mean, the graphic card fan speed will definitely change. That can't be fixed. But the CPU, chassis fan speed, all that kind of stuff, that's going to stay the same. We're just going to see how well it does dealing with these components. So I'll come back in like half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. We'll see how far the GPU clock drops. We'll see if the CPU core drops, and then we'll boost up the fan speeds to see if we can sort of claw some of that back. So I'll be back in, like I said, half an hour, 45 minutes, and yeah, let's see how we go. Okay, so it's been probably at least half an hour or more, and the temperatures on the CPU diode, 68 degrees Celsius, GPU 76, and looking at Thermark here, we've only gone down to 1995 megahertz. Considering the amount of load that we're putting under the CPU and GPU, that's actually pretty incredible. The CPU's hardly changed at all. So maybe what we'll do now is we'll jack up the fan speed to, let's say, 60%, just to give it a little bit more, and we'll see how that changes things. And we'll come back again in maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll see if we can get back some of that boost clock and get it back up to around 2020, 2030. So let's come back in 15 and see how it goes. Alright, so it looks like the GPU has maybe clawed back a little bit. CPU is still, unchanged. It is boosting up a little bit higher. Temperatures have dropped a little bit more with 70% fan speed, but to be honest, I wouldn't be putting it much higher than that just because of the noise. But just for the fun, let's just make sure. Oh, sorry, it's actually 60%, not 70. Let's put it up to 80%. And I'll come back again in 10 minutes and we'll see how it goes. So everything is basically stable now at 80%, I guess, fan speed, 1400 RPM. The GPU is stable at about 2010 megahertz. The CPU is at 3700 or 3.7 gigahertz. And everything's looking pretty good. Temperatures wise, CPU's at 59 on the diode and the GPU's at 67, which is definitely well under, I guess, where I would consider it to be a risk. Normally around about 85 degrees, I would say that's, getting a little bit too hot, but anything below that, I definitely don't have any concerns with at the moment. The case, by the way, is the DeepCool MA Cube 310P, just in case I forgot to mention it. So it's a sort of a mid-tower. There's not a heap of room for airflow, but it's definitely doing a very good job of keeping the air going through this machine. And if you're wondering about buying these fans, definitely can't recommend them high enough. They sound pretty good. They're not too noisy or whiny. The value is there. $79 for 3 of these is super, super good value. The RGB looks amazing, and they perform really well. So if you're thinking about it, definitely go and get these fans. So my overall thoughts and impressions on these particular fans from DeepCool is that for $79 to get 3 ARGB fans that perform really, really well is just amazing value. And once again, DeepCool, I feel, has delivered a really solid product to the table, and one that I can definitely recommend to you guys. If you're on the fence about buying some RGB fans and you want to pay the premium for some of the other brands that are out there, then maybe check these ones out from DeepCool. Big shout out to those guys for sending these fans over to me for review. And again, if you have any comments or questions, let me know down in the comment section. So now that you're at the end of this video and you want to know what to watch next, check out my video on the RTX 2070 Super that I just got, as that was the card that was in this PC for this video. Not a fan, but okay.
The new KFC Kentucky Burger with crispy onions, original recipe chicken, and bourbon barbecue sauce. So good and only at KFC.
What's that one? Keep moving.